Today's discovery will challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient Peru. We're about to unveil some of the most chilling and controversial archaeological findings ever documented in South America. Discoveries so disturbing they've sparked debates that reach from scientific laboratories all the way to biblical scholars. Before we unveil these incredible treasures, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss the ancient mysteries we're about to reveal. Picture this scene with me. Over 2,300 years ago, on Peru's northern coast, something horrifying was taking place at an ancient temple. But here's what will blow your mind. This wasn't just any temple. This was a sacred place that had supposedly been abandoned for centuries. Yet it continued to draw people back for one dark purpose: human sacrifice. The archaeological crime scene. Imagine walking through the ruins of Pue Mape Temple today. You'd see a broad ceremonial staircase leading up to a gathering space, stone walls perfectly positioned like theatre seating. But what archaeologists discovered there in recent years made them realize something shocking. This wasn't just a temple. It was a stage designed specifically for ritual murder. At least 12 individuals were found scattered around this ancient site, and the way they died tells a story that still sends chills down the spines of researchers. Pay attention to these incredible details. Every single victim was found lying face down, an immediate red flag in ancient burial traditions, signaling ultimate disrespect. Their hands were tied behind their backs with ropes. Ropes were still looped around their necks after more than 2,000 years. Their skulls showed clear evidence of blunt force trauma. Their bones revealed fractures that could only come from violent assault. But here's the mystery that baffled archaeologists. Unlike other sacrifice sites across ancient Peru, these victims received no offerings whatsoever. No ceramics were placed with them, not a single bead, not even a symbolic gift. They were stripped not just of life, but of identity itself. The sacred space that never died. Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone perform sacrifices at an abandoned temple? This is where our story gets truly fascinating. The Temple of Pue Mape was originally built by the Kupiznik culture around 1000 BC. That's 3,000 years ago. The temple had supposedly been out of commission for centuries when these sacrifices occurred. Radiocarbon dating pins the murder window between 400 and 200 BC, well after the temple's prime time. But here's what recent excavations have revealed. In ancient Andean belief systems, certain places remained wakas, sacred spaces that hummed with ancestral energy and divine gravity. Even after the original builders departed, later cultures felt drawn to these sites like moths to a flame. The temple demanded tribute, and the people obliged with blood. Who were the victims? This is the question keeping researchers awake at night. Were these locals punished for angering the gods? Captives dragged from distant valleys specifically for ritual purposes? Criminals receiving ultimate justice? What we'll discover now will amaze you. Ongoing DNA sequencing and bone analysis may soon unmask the victims' origins. Scientists are using cutting-edge technology to extract genetic material from bones that have been buried for over 2 millennia. The results could reveal whether these people were native to the region or imported specifically as sacred cargo with no return ticket. What makes this discovery groundbreaking? According to leading experts in pre-Columbian archaeology, this massacre at Pue Mape represents one of the strongest and earliest examples of mass sacrificial violence ever documented in ancient Peru. This isn't speculation or mythology. This is hard archaeological evidence that rewrites our understanding of ritual practices in the Americas. Now let's move to what might be the most controversial archaeological mystery in modern history. Fellow explorers, what I'm about to share with you has sparked one of the fiercest debates in archaeology, genetics, and even religious studies. In 1928, Peruvian archaeologist Julio Tello went digging in the Paracas Desert, a sun-blasted, wind-torn peninsula that doesn't look like a place where civilization would thrive. But underneath its parched surface, he discovered something that would challenge our understanding of human history itself. Over 300 skulls emerged from the ground, and these weren't ordinary skulls. Picture this. Elongated heads that looked like they'd been stretched toward the heavens, some resembling upside-down ice cream cones, others appearing almost alien in their proportions. Red and blonde hair still clinging to ancient bone. Facial structures so dramatically different from modern humans that some researchers question whether these people were entirely human at all. Here's something that will absolutely amaze you. Most archaeologists initially assumed these were examples of cranial deformation, a practice where newborns' heads are bound with cloth or wood, forcing the skull to grow into elongated shapes. Cultures from Mesoamerica to Melanesia have done this for thousands of years. Fashion hurts, right? But the Paracas Skulls weren't playing by the usual rules. Pay attention to these incredible anatomical differences. The foramen magnum mystery. Every human being has a foramen magnum. That's the critical hole at the base of your skull where your spine connects. In every normal human, this opening is positioned in exactly the same place. But on the Paracas Skulls, the foramen magnum was located way too far back. So far back that scientists suspect these individuals were not designed to walk upright on 2 legs like we do. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about a fundamental difference in skeletal architecture. The missing sagittal suture. Here's another mind-blowing detail. Some Paracas skulls completely lack the sagittal suture. For those not familiar with anatomy, the sagittal suture is the seam where 2 skull plates normally fuse together. You can see it as a line running down the middle of the skull. Every human has one, except these individuals didn't. This isn't just unusual, it's a foundational difference in cranial structure. Either these people all suffered from an extremely rare pathological condition called craniosynostosis, or they literally belonged to a different genetic lineage altogether. Now let's talk real science, because what happened next is where this story becomes truly extraordinary. In the early 2010s, researcher L.A. Marzulli and his team acquired samples from several Paracas skulls, hair, bone powder, and even a complete skull from a private US collection. They wore protective gear, carefully drilled samples through the foramen magnum, and sent material to independent laboratories in Canada and the United States. But here's the sneaky part that makes this research so credible. The laboratories weren't told what the samples were. Scientists had no idea they were analyzing potentially controversial material. They just knew they were dating ancient mummy samples. This blind testing eliminated any possibility of bias. What we'll discover now will challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient Peru. Of the samples that could be sequenced, 3 had mitochondrial haplogroup H2A, a genetic marker commonly found in Eastern European populations. But wait, this is ancient Peru, thousands of years before any known European contact. One sample showed haplogroup T2b, typical of the Middle East, Mesopotamia, and Syria. Later tests revealed haplogroups H1a and U2e, both associated with populations around the Black Sea and Caspian regions. What does all of this mean? These people were not from Peru. Their genetic signatures point directly to Eurasia, the general region of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So here's the question that's driving archaeologists crazy. How did Eurasian people end up in Peru 3,000 years ago, centuries before any documented transatlantic contact? But it doesn't stop there. Pay attention to this incredible detail. 2 independent hair analysis experts examined the Paracas samples and confirmed that many skulls had naturally red or blonde hair. Not dyed, not degraded over time, genetically red and blonde. Even more astounding, the hair structure itself was different. Paracas hair measured 30% finer than native South American hair, a genetic trait strongly associated with Western Eurasian populations. Red hair is rare globally, appearing in only 1 to 2% of the world's population, with the highest concentrations in Western Europe and the British Isles. Yet here it is, in ancient Peru, attached to skulls that predate Viking explorations of the Americas by over 2,000 years. Now, fellow time travellers, we're entering controversial territory. Some researchers, including L.A. Marzulli, have proposed a theory so bold it sparked intense debate across scientific and religious communities. According to the biblical book of Genesis, chapter 6, verse 4, there once existed beings called Nephilim, described as the offspring of sons of God and daughters of men. These were said to be giants or semi-divine beings who walked the earth before a great flood. Marzulli's theory suggests that the Paracas people may have been descendants of these Nephilim, survivors or offspring who somehow made their way to Peru, carrying with them distinctive genetic markers and physical characteristics that set them apart from other human populations. The scientific evidence. Here's what makes this theory intriguing, even to skeptics. First, the DNA evidence points to the Levant region, the same geographical area where, according to biblical texts, the Nephilim were said to have existed. Second, The anatomical anomalies suggest these individuals belonged to a genetically distinct population with structural differences so profound they challenge our classification systems. Third, ancient Peruvian legends speak of mysterious beings who came from across the sea, bringing advanced knowledge and unusual physical characteristics. But here's the mystery that continues to baffle archaeologists. If these were naturally elongated skulls belonging to a distinct genetic population, why haven't we found similar remains anywhere else? Where did these people come from, and what happened to their descendants? Not everyone accepts Marzulli's conclusions, of course. Many mainstream archaeologists argue that the elongation could still be explained by more extreme forms of cranial modification. The genetic results might represent later DNA contamination. The anatomical differences could result from pathological conditions. The sample size is too small to draw definitive conclusions. Marzulli responds to critics with a challenge. Don't mock the man, mock the method. Go down to Peru, pull your own samples, pay your own lab fees, then come back with something better. It's a fair point. Whatever you believe about the Nephilim theory, Marzulli and his team conducted rigorous scientific testing using blind protocols and independent laboratories. The result